All right, I declare this meeting in session. Rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You all had a chance to review the minutes, I assume. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting? Motion by Mattson, seconded by Amon. Any questions or corrections to the minutes? I did have one, and she made that correction. So we're working on the same. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are adopted. Then we have bills to pay. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Amon moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Imdick seconds. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried as well. Okay, then we have a bid letting. Mel, you're going to go ahead and...
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is for project number SP 34-608-026. It's County Road 8 from Lake Lillian North, 6.3 miles. It's an full depth reclamation and a bridge project. We will be taking these bids and we'll be reading two numbers, a base bid number and then a base bid plus an add alternate. And then we're going to review the bids and bring back to the July 2nd, right, July 2nd? Or no, June,
July 2nd.
is it July 2nd? Or June,
No,
the next board meeting.
The next board meeting.
June 18th.
Yeah, we have just too many things.
Unless we're getting a day off that I don't know about.
You're right, I won't be here, but you're right. So we'll be under control.
All right,
So we got two bids.
two bids, okay.
The first one is Central Specialties out of Alexandria, Minnesota. They have a good bid bond. They acknowledge addendum number 1. And the base bid total is $3,423,601.30. 3423601.30. The base bid plus add number 1 is $4,026,209.75. 4026209.75.
Okay.
And then the second and the last bid is Donick Incorporated out of Princeburg. They have a good bid bond. And their bid is, they acknowledge addendum number 1. And their bid, the base bid is $3,215,725.32. 3215725.32. The base bid plus add number 1 is $3,847,557.43. 3847557.43.
Okay, and you're going to bring that back on the 18th?
To the next board meeting.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you gentlemen for coming and for your bids. And that one is scratched off.
Yep, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure. Mr. Odens, Jeremy? The estimate, is that for the total or is that the base bid?
Plus, that's the base bid plus 1.
The estimate that you gave? Okay, thank you.
So the days of being under. All right. And we have the, those of you looking on your computer, we do not have that other bid letting for the glacial, is it Glacial Lakes?
Yes.
Sanitary Sewer District. Tim, the sheriff is ready to go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Matt Akerson's going to be joining me here shortly as well, but we'll just get started. And obviously, we're here to request going forward with a request for proposal on a jail remodeling project. And with that, I'll give you kind of some of the background as to why we're putting in this request, and give you kind of an estimate as to what we're looking at doing as far as the project goes in and of itself. One of the big things that we can see that is kind of changing, you can go ahead and just stand up right here with me, Matt. One of the big things that you see is changing as far as jail goes and mental health and other aspects like that. One of the big things that we're seeing in law enforcement is this trend of chemical dependency issues, mental health, whether it's by doctor or psychiatrist issues, as well as suicide and suicide prevention. And when you look at statistically kind of what's occurring when people enter our facilities, what we're looking at, 20% of our American population has some sort of mental health issue. Law enforcement, we're dealing with 7 to 10% of those people out in the streets that ultimately will end up in our jails. When you look at the jail in and of itself, 15% of the men that are coming into our jail facilities and about 30% of the females are coming in with some sort of mental health issues. And then not only to mention that, we also have a lot of medical issues that come into play as well. So when you look at the jail project that we're looking to go forward with and kind of get the proposals out there, is to help offset some of the issues that are arising because of shortcomings elsewhere within the state or the county because of funding and other issues. And not only that, to mitigate the liability that we occur inside the jail itself because of these issues. So when you look at kind of what's occurring, and the great thing is what you'll see in your drop downs that you have in front of you, there is a diagram as well as some information that MEND has provided us as well. You'll have quarterly reports from MEND that kind of shows the different things that we deal with on a regular basis in the jail facility when they come into the facility itself. First off, since the first thing that you'll probably see in your drop down is that diagram. If you actually look at the diagram, you'll
Sheriff,
see.
how about we put it on
Yes, sir.
overhead? And you can kind of show the public here.
Okay.
Zoom in here.
So what you'll see there on the diagram, if you look at what is Q right there, when you look at Q on the right to that, which is the expanded Sally Port and holding cell area, what you'll see is all that information as to what we're looking at as requesting. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
So what we're doing is we're requesting to go forward to seek proposals for expanding that Sally Port as well as some holding cells. When we look at some of the issues that are arising, it's the number of individuals that we end up holding in these holding cells during the weekends, the weeks, and stuff like that before they get seen by MEND. And I'll let Matt explain a little bit here as to the importance of the holding cell expansion and also what MEND's process is as far as trying to see these individuals. Now understand that MEND also provides our mental health side of things, and they provide some weekend stuff, and I'll let Matt clarify any questions that you might have when it comes to that. So if you want to just address the holding cells, why we're looking to expand, and the issues we've had.
All right, just kind of take you back some history. We have the same number of holding cells in our jail right now as we did in the old jail. And when this was built, the inspector at the time said we would have double the number of cells or holding cells, but the inspector at the time said, no, you're supposed to get these people in these cells and get them down to the general population. Well, when people are coming in with mental illness, Rule 20 takes 60 days before a judge rules on whether this person could be committed someplace or not. And for 60 days, these people live in these tanks. And so our people that are coming in high and drunk, we have no place to put them, so we're forced to put them in general population where they shouldn't be because they have chemical issues that they need to have addressed. And so that's where the problem is running as to these tanks are becoming more of holding or longer holding areas for these inmates. Men, if somebody comes in, a lot of times they're upset because they got arrested. They say they're suicidal. And of course, we have to take precautions. We hold them in booking for closer observation. Now, when the men comes in, they can release that person when a mental health provider says, yep, they're okay. They go back down to general population. Until that happens, they have to be held up in a holding tank. And they go under 15-minute checks. We're constantly checking on them, make sure they're okay. And so the problem we're running into is we're running out of We just don't have room to hold these people that should be in tanks, so we're end up putting them in general population, which gets to be an issue, so.
And when you look at kind of how this has kind of become, back long before even 2000, for example, when we moved out to this facility, we never foresaw the issues that the mental health was going to play with our jail facilities. But as regional treatment centers started to close up or minimize the number of people that they had housed at their facilities, they've now become or shifted to, I hate to say this, law enforcement's problem. You know, and the majority of the time, yes, they've committed a crime, and we understand that. But in the same token, we have to look out for their best interests while they're in our care and custody. So, you know, there's different things that we can do to accommodate it. And we're looking at approximately, just rough numbers now, I'm not a construction expert by any means, it's about a 3,000 square foot project that you're looking at in order to accomplish this, give or take. And that's why we're looking to bring in the experts to figure out what we need to do and what it's ultimately going to cost.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, as you recall, last fall, you were given a tour of the Law Enforcement Center and the jail part, and you were showing in the walkthrough what it looked like. And I know Commissioner Berg wasn't on board yet, but others of you have seen that and kind of seen the diagram. As you know, this is not a new issue that just came up. This is something that we've been talking about for several years now. It's getting to a point that we need to start doing something, and this planning stage is going to take some time. I think what the sheriff and Mr. Akerson is asking is that they be allowed to work with myself to find some engineers, architectural engineering, send out 2, 3, 4 RSVPs and try to get some proposals back to talk about what this might cost, and then start developing a plan and then bring that before you. So today, all they're asking is, can they have permission to proceed and get into design done and some costs?
Commissioner Imdick.
How many new rooms will this add, the 3,000 square feet?
We're hoping to add at least another five tanks. The thing would be is the Sally Port, because of where we have coach buses that come in a lot of times for bigger Department of Corrections or ICE or whatever would come in, and they have to be able to make that turn, and with those tanks. So if you can see right here, this is where the additional tanks would be. There'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then depends on what DOC allow us to do. We'd do 5 here where Q is. They might require us to make a Sally Port entry into that area, so that might have to be a doorway, but we're hoping that they'll allow us to make a tank. And then you see these 2 holding areas here on the side. Right now, the existing, where the hallway is in front of these new tanks we're hoping to add on, it actually is a tank. It's a long tank. It's used for a number of people coming in, big groups. And so if we make that a hallway, we would lose that tank. And so these 2 additional ones here on the sides would replace that. So inmates ready to go to court, there could be, on a Monday morning, could be 10 inmates going to court. They'd be all put into this holding area, waiting for the transport officers to get them to load them in the vehicle to take them to court. And so that's just replacing what we lost because of this hallway in front of the tanks.
I guess the follow-up question is, are we just meeting the needs, or are we going to have enough space then for 10 years out?
It's hard to say.
Because there seems to be a trend.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Right. We don't see any change coming from whether it's the state or anybody else as far as handling with mental illness and them coming into jails. And, yeah, that could be an issue again in the future, I suppose.
Commissioner,
That's what the study.
did you have?
Thanks, I know we've been talking about it, and the view of the jail was great when we did that. So how many What increase have we had in incarcerated people, women and men both, that are ICE holes? We've had ICE, I understand is that we have more people, the federal government has been sending people ICE holes, or they're incarcerated, or they're being held until their date of trial or whatever, or review for illegal immigration people. How has that affected our jail, and how many more people are we taking in now versus what we were in the past? I'm just wondering if this is something we're doing for a revenue maker, or is this going to be something that's going to be an additional cost to us, the taxpayers, and then we're taking care of the services of the federal government that should, it doesn't come unfunded mandates, you might say. We're going to take them, but and I'm just curious what the outlook is on this, if this is something that's going to continue, or how long this trend is going to be here. I don't know.
Yeah, this, I don't think we have ever held an ICE inmate or a federal inmate in a holding tank.
Okay. Not in a holding
Not that
tank.
they're, yeah, or as far as, yeah, I mean, our population has gone up because of that, but this project has nothing to do with them. This is trying to deal with our own local population, the ones that are coming in that are mentally ill from the group homes and out in the public that come in that we're trying to handle. So this has been a problem even without ICE being here. Our beds are filling up from that, but that's general population. We can't hold these type of inmates in those general population cells because of the closeness to watch, just some of the limiting what they can have access to and stuff like that because of what they'll do. So
I understand your need based on the mental health issue, and it is not that it shouldn't be the role that we have to play, but it sounds like we're kind of being pushed in the direction that we have to take care of those cases because of our accountability, you might say, and use law enforcement trying to take care of the welfare of the people. I know you're in a catch-22. I'm just wondering again, there's no funding that follows it, and it seems like we're in that same situation again. I was just curious if there were requirements that, due to us holding any federal prisoners, like for ICE, we have different requirements or a different setting or a different structure we have to build, if that is the intent or if it's not anything to do with that.
as far as our structure, according to ICE, we've had 5 inspections now. Our jail is clean. They said the structure is great. Really, the holding cells that we currently have, if an ICE inmate would need it, does meet the standards for what they would need. But like I said, this project is different. So.
All right, Commissioner Berg.
A couple of questions. I actually did get to be part of that tour, and I was extremely impressed. My background is in mental health, and not being in the jail for a long time, visiting that is, I was very impressed how well you are working with the people you have there and the medical staff that you have available and doing this. One question I had now, expanding this, and with everything expanding, are you going to be having to expand more staff in that way, or expand anything in addition to the services besides the physical holding tank?
It'll actually increase the efficiency of what we're looking to do.
Okay.
When we look at the booking area right now, we've got one spot that we can use for booking. And I know there's also been talk of a medical examination room created out of one of the bathrooms, which would then also eliminate the downtime in which staff is waiting to process individuals as they're coming into our facility and being seen by the medical staff as well.
Would any of them be designed differently to deal with a mentally ill person?
Yeah, we're hoping that, I've toured some other jails to kind of get some ideas of what they're, one of the things, like we have one for the extremely mentally ill person who, we have one cell that has no shower, has no bathroom, and so our staff is forced to take this person out, at least daily, and bring them to a shower that's not set up for this type of people to be using, and so there is holding tanks that they manufacture now that has a shower right in it and stuff like that. So these dangerous individuals, our staff don't have, they can turn on the water, they can take their shower and be done, and we not have to take them out and move them. So as far as like the sheriff was talking about, right now we could get, in DOC sometimes, even ICE, we could get 21 people at one time, and we can only process one person at a time. And what we're hoping is to add a second booking station, not a second booking officer, but have the ability for somebody else to come up and work up in booking to help process these people in. And so that would be, then we can go twice as fast and stuff like that, so.
With the Rule 20s you mentioned, that was very interesting. So they could be held there for some time.
Yeah,
Which isn't really good for their mental health neither.
No.
Yeah.
And we have a mental health provider that comes in from Mend that meets with these people, but, it's just, we're basically holding them for their time until the court can do what they need to do, so.
And it sounds like you're doing the best you can with what you have to work with.
Commissioner Emdick.
I'd like to go back to the RFP and the proposed expansion. Did you say there was some restrictions? I thought I heard you say something about when a transport comes in, something about swinging out or not enough room?
Well, just, they have to, if you look at the plan here, we kind of estimated or whatever, we'd take an engineer, architect to figure that out for sure, but the coach must be able to make that swing when they come into the Sally Port there and stuff like that. The other thing with the expanded Sally Port is with these 2 holding cells, right now, any inmate that goes to court, leaves our facility, has to go through booking. So you can imagine you have 20 people to process, and now you have 10 people going to court, you have 30 people up in booking. What we would do is, with the Sally Port expanded like this, we would allow, the inmates could go into these holding rooms and then go into the Sally Port through another door and never go through booking. And so we eliminate some of the traffic that comes through there, and obviously, with the mentally ill people, sometimes they're yelling things at everybody that walks by that door, and booking gets to be very chaotic, and so that would help in that way.
So are we proposing to expand the footprint of the facility, or is this all internal expansion?
Where you see where Q is,
Yep.
that's the existing Sally Port right now. What we would be doing is just basically taking that and going over to, we call it our program hallway, but it'd be straight across from there to meet up with that. And so we have that long cell where I have my finger right now, that's currently a long holding cell. That would actually become a hallway to run from booking back to we call it the program hallway where all the program classrooms are.
I guess where I'm going with this is that if we're considering an RFP for an expansion that essentially just gets us to where we need to be today, can you do it almost in the form of an alternate? What would the RFP look like if we did what we needed today and had a little bit more for, I hate to call it growth in that area, but if the trend is moving in that direction, then you're going to be back here within a couple of years, probably asking the board again for that request. So does it make more sense to look at it now than it does to look at it again in a few years?
I would be open to it.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Mack.
I think that proceeding with an RFP is absolutely prudent. Getting some engineers, architects, and design and working with DOC to look at, as you talk, Roger, the growth and that type of thing. I think it's inevitable that there's going to be more awareness in this area, which is going to result in the growth of individuals that we are dealing with, that you're dealing with. The fact of the matter is that for Mr. Kleindl, for 30, 35 years, whether it's mental health and Commissioner Berg as well, we're still 20 years behind as far as where we should be, clearly, in corrections, and you can attest to that, Tammy, as well. We're way behind at this point. How do we plan for the future? I don't know. Anything beyond this is going to be much more major than is talked about here. This is certainly a 5-fold increase in far as holding cells, substantial at that point as proposed. Anything else above that would require substantial reinvention of the entire site at that point. But there might be some types of technical expertise from areas that could say, you could do this, and here's some possibilities at that point. I certainly am going to favor moving with an RFP, looking at this. The fact of the matter is, from the MICD, we're going to be continually dealing it. And Sheriff, you talk about the liability, not only from the prisoner inmate standpoint, but most in premier is the staff standpoint. the efficiencies and that type of thing. So if you would be willing, Mr. Chair, I would enter a motion that we authorize Mr. Kleindl and working with the law enforcement and jail administration to proceed with some RFP and give us some more details and data as we move ahead.
I'll second that.
A second by Berg. Commissioner Mattson moves, Commissioner Berg seconds. Any further questions? Commissioner Amman?
Thank you for the presentation. The anticipated construction timeframe, are you looking at this as a budgeting item for 2020, 2021?
2021, I would assume that time.
20 or 21. It's going to, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
it's going to take a while. Once we send out an RFP, people will respond. I don't know, it could be the end of 20. They might be able to give us some better timelines by September when we do this. By the time we certify our budget.
Okay. and-
But I would aim, I don't think it would be much before the end of 2020.
Okay, and there's no plan, as far as the improvement and plans that you're doing in the addition that I see is on an expanded area, you're building 2 more walls onto the existing building, correct?
Correct, in the roof, yep.
Yeah, on the roof. I agree wholeheartedly with the idea if there's expended needs, when you're there right now, to add on another 500 square feet is, labor-wise, if you're at that point of commitment, you might as well dive in a little bit more, so there might be some options there. And the only other question, I support the idea in general, but what other options do we have? Well, I mean, what else, if we did nothing, what would happen? I mean, what would be the results of no action?
That's why we also included the men's quarterly reports. So if you look
those.
at those quarterly reports, it gives you an estimate of what it would cost if we had to outsource some of these activities that are done within our facility. It would be exponentially expensive. And not only that, a lot of places just don't have place to house anyone. And we have become the place currently to house people, sadly.
Okay.
Thank you.
I see a definite need for this as far as speaking to Commissioner Imdick's concern about thinking ahead. I agree with the thought. I believe, though, that it's time that the state addresses the mental health issues in the jail and not forcing it on the county to continue to grow our facility.
Agree.
Absolutely. It's been brought up at AMC many times. It's a critical issue, and if we cannot solve it without state action, people that are mentally ill shouldn't be in the jail in the first place. And so if we build a jail to house mental health folks, it should be somewhere else. That would be a bad move in my view. So I favor the drawing as presented. I believe that would, until the state acts, we can't spend money to plan for a future that should change at the state level. And that's my view.
Yep. And Mr.
Final
Chair,
question. Is there going to be any sources of funding from the state or federal government that grants we can get available for any of this?
As of right now, I have not seen any grants available for it.
There's nothing through the federal government with the incarceration of illegal immigrants or anything like that. Would they help us and benefit us in any way?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You were going to say something.
Mr. Chair, and for the public that's watching, all this your motion does today is give us the ability to get a pricing and a cost estimate of what this is. So those are watching, this is a process. And this is a process that we go through in a public arena to find out what it's going to cost to add on and to do this.
All right. Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor of allowing the RFP to proceed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, I thought Mr. Young had something else. All right, we have nothing to do now.
Oh, you were in time.
There he is.
Good.
No, wait, let's see.
We can take
We can
Josh.
do Josh
This will
first.
do, Josh. Yes.
We're happy to have you here because one of our 10:30
Well,
appointment
no,
was,
it was supposed to go that long.
oh, it was?
The presentation was
Oh,
that.
I see, okay. No, we would be happy to hear your presentation on the Lake Wakanda Management Plan.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity here today to present this plan. As you guys probably know, my name is Josh Kavanaugh. I'm with the DNR Shallow Lake Program. We've been working on this project for a long time and finally seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, looking at construction probably sometime later this fall. The operation and management plan before you, it's basically a permitting requirement from ecological and water resources. So before we're able to actually utilize that water control structure and do temporary drawdown, they need an approved operation and management plan. So this hasn't been approved yet. It's basically a draft that'll be submitted to them for approval, but it's based on other O&M plans where we have been successful. As you guys might recall, Skip Wright authored the original comprehensive management plan for Lake Wakanda back in 2015. The operation and management plan before you is basically a condensed version of that larger comprehensive plan, but it does include some more specifics in regard to engineering, because at the time in 2015 we didn't have engineering, and also some public notification requirements. But for the most part, it's everything we developed back in 2015. The goal is the same. Our drawdown goal is 1.5 feet, so basically to that 1103.2 elevation. The structure as designed and as it'll be built, there might be a little bit more capacity for drawdown there below that 1103.2, but we're essentially going to have to be in drought conditions. Big Candy Lake immediately downstream's at 1102.6, so there's not a whole lot of fall there. I don't think there's going to be much opportunity to utilize that structure below our goal elevation, but if the opportunity presents itself, we want to build in that capacity. And if we were to use that capacity, it would require further public notification and a public meeting just to kind of grant us the ability to use that. But again, I think it's going to be so rare that we have that opportunity. We'll just cross that bridge when and if we get there. The management plan, the goal of that plan is to still maintain a fishery in Lake Wakanda, 2/3 of the time. There is a large advisory team that has been developed for the project, and essentially that's going to help steer and guide some of these management decisions. So I don't think we're really looking for any action from the board today, but if there's any feedback you have after reviewing that plan, if there's any questions you have, I guess I'm here to try to answer them.
Commissioner Mattson, that's in your area. Do you have any comments or questions?
Only to say that it has moved a lot, seemingly like it taken forever at that point. The last time, Josh, we had an opportunity for extended drawdown was 1976 during the extreme drought condition. Even 88 didn't even come close at that point. And the current year's drought seems like a word that's forgotten right now at some point. But very, very seriously, the plan, there have been some good discussion and changes. Some of the last modifications, some clarifications that came in there. I'm very much supportive of this. It is some strong actions. It is also a strong involvement from a variety of people, landowners to the technical individuals, and the outcome has been very positive. So I'm very optimistic and hopeful that this is a board support certainly, but that the state will authorize and proceed with it, because I see only positive outcomes from this on all aspects. So Josh needs to be complimented. His work with Ducks Unlimited for years and continuing with the DNR has been a very positive force. Skip, certainly a lot of credit for the lots and lots of work that was put in, and certainly the key people from the landowners that were there has been very positive. So If, I don't know if you're looking for any kind of motion for support from the board or just information, Josh, I guess I would, Mr. Kleindl, Mr. Kavanaugh.
Do we need a motion? Do you-
I think it's just more just sharing the information with you guys, providing you an update. Since that original plan in 2015, we've kind of consolidated everything down into like a recipe book for how we're actually going to manage water levels there.
Well, the original plan was back in the 70s, the first one, in the 80s, and
Yeah.
lots of morphing. But again, it's very positive. So if a motion is not necessary,
I
that's
mean, you
certainly
can, it
fine.
doesn't hurt anything, but it,
But it's very, very key to see it moving forward, very key.
Any other questions for Josh?
Well, just one
Jason?
question.
No, Josh. Go ahead.
Thank you again for your efforts. I'm sure you've been almost salivating to finally see this come to fruition. All the hard work and the years of planning, and I've been here since '74. We talked 1970, and here it is 40-some years later, and it's just amazing. What are you going to see as far as the if you're going to explain to the public what the major benefactors going to be to the water quality and to water retention or water clarity? How do you feel it's going to affect, and of course, then the fishing end of it? Could you just summarize some of those high points or?
Right. Yeah, no problem. Really the goal of the project is to try to improve water quality, and through improved water quality, we'll also improve fish and wildlife habitat. I mean, it's really, it's that simple. It's just a difficult, thing to meet. And the goal to improving the water quality and improving fish and wildlife habitat is plant growth out there, trying to improve submerged aquatic plant growth. With that will come the improved water quality and the fish and wildlife habitat. And, drawdown is you're essentially trying to simulate drought, kind of reset that system, kill off some of the carp and undesirable fish that are in that system, try to balance out that fish community again, and then try to, just promote germination of some of those plants.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just thank you for coming and giving us that update, and I know you're always available if anyone would have a question to probably answer some specific questions. Unless there are any other questions here today, we'll just thank you very much.
thank you,
for your
Josh.
information.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Mr. Chair, should we
Yes.
take a 5-minute break?
Yes, we can. We are on 5-minute recess. Exactly 10:45. So I would open the public hearing. Gary, will you come to the microphone and kind of lay the groundwork?
Yes, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Gary Gear, Kandiyohi County Environmental Services Director, here with a nuisance abatement is the hearing that I'm bringing before you. And it is for a property, owner is Jason Dahlberg. Address is 22914 158th Street Northeast in Roseville Township. This is a parcel that we've been working with in the past over a number of years just to get a permit since 2016 for the structure that ultimately has been moved on. That did not come to fruition. The property has been abandoned, and there's certainly solid waste across the property, as well as an abandoned camper that's broken out windows, different miscellaneous items all strewn throughout the property that you, I believe, can see on the photos that are in the file. So it was May 1st that the initial letter went notifying the property owner, and then an inspection on May 20th. And there's been a little, I think there's actually just a few items that have been removed that they maybe thought were of some value, but the nuisance remained. So therefore, May 21st, then I sent the follow-up letter establishing this June 4th as the hearing date to have the board make a decision on whether to move forward and abate the nuisance on this property. So,
All right.
I got some pictures you want to show?
oh, I do have them here. Or,
Yeah, you want to put them on the overhead, please, for the public?
So,
So is there nobody living in the mobile home or using that shed or anything anymore? Or is it?
that is correct. The mobile home is broken out windows and doors and not lived in. The detached garage appeared to have been attempted to be lived in some, but does not appear to be at this time either. This is just another photo.
Oh, he's using campaign signs to skirt his trailer.
And
have to get rid of
so there's a
I know it.
photo,
Well, there's,
and I'm just kind of rolling through if that's what you're
Please do.
after. Just, there's car seats, there's pallets, there's barrels, there's pressure tanks, garbage barrels, miscellaneous household items. Not sure what all this was.
Yeah,
This
I'm not
was,
either.
It's small items. Looks like a lot of electronic components were maybe taken apart.
Mr.
and
Chair.
dismantled.
Yes.
I took a picture similar to that when I went out on a site visit. I was curious, thinking it was some paraphernalia, but it turns out it's about 4 junk drawers worth of stuff.
Oh,
Tops
yeah.
of ink pens, bottoms of ink pens, you name it.
There's the camper with the busted out windows, and the doors broke on the other side as well, and just full of household items as well. It was used as a storage more than a camper. This is just a photo of the letter that I posted on site. This is the door going into the detached garage, which doesn't really show all the solid waste within the structure, but that is inside of the structure too. So that's the photos. And then I did inspect the property yesterday too, just to make sure that we're still at this state, and that is correct. So
Okay.
the nuisance does still exist, and it would be my recommendation to order the abatement of the nuisances, and that the costs would be incurred and assessed to the property owner.
All right, and I see that Mr. Dahlberg is not present at this hearing, unless he's hiding.
He's on the roster across the street.
Oh, I see. So you're requesting
Requesting a motion to
Okay.
abate.
This is a public hearing,
this is a public hearing.
so I'd move to close the public hearing
Thank you.
before we.
Is there a second to that? Motion to close the public hearing.
second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Mattson. Commissioner Emdick moved, Commissioner Mattson seconded to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Now, you need a motion to,
Motion to abate the nuisance.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Imdick moves, is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Amon seconds. Any further questions of,
Few quick.
go ahead.
Just a
I
few
think
questions. Incarceration. There's nobody else living on that site now?
Correct.
And as far as revenue behind on taxes, is that an issue too? Yeah, I know it's not I'm just kind of getting a
Yeah,
feel
I
for
do
this.
not, I believe they're current on taxes.
Okay, and has everything been exhausted as far as, no, there is no other immediate family, physical owners living or nearby that can assist in this, that's been contacted? Or is that our requirement? And also, church groups, volunteer people that can help people out in this kind of situation? And has there been any hostility with the owner to the point of infringing on his property rights?
Mr. Chair, if
yes, go ahead.
I could speak to some of that. This has been an ongoing
Okay.
situation that I've personally heard about from some of the neighbors and township officers for probably more than 3 years.
Okay.
Family members had been involved, and one of the neighbors, and of course this is hearsay, but one of the neighbors said that family member has washed its hands of it. And that, as Mr. Gear pointed out, there's absolutely no movement. There's a couple of it's unfortunate for those neighbors in this small community that are trying to make a nice community of it, and they have to put up they talked about rodents, vermin, also being seen in the area. And so I think any delay of this or any reason would be the wrong move. I think we need to abate it. I do have a question, though,
Yes.
regarding when we do an abatement, it gets pretty expensive. And, I don't know how to do this, but one of the neighbors that's involved said, I'd be willing to do this. And I think it would be less cost than what we have to charge when we look at taking our busy public works people and whatever to do it. Do we have any options that way?
That's a good question. It may even be a legal question.
Yeah.
We would have to do it, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We'd have to have a contract with that individual. This is a private property. We're going on private property to remove the stuff. There's a lot of, you'd have to have some type of professional liability insurance to do this. So there'd be, it's not just as easy as to say, anybody can go in there and clean it up and we'll pay them for that. There's a process, Mr. Chair, that would have to be done.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm going to concur with that. We talked about that a number of times over the years from a liability standpoint, and it's, we discussed this with MCIT years ago, and they just shudder thinking about anybody else. As a county, we have an ordinance that we're enacting at this point. My question, Mr. Gear, is in terms of the abatement, what specificities do you have as far as what's going to be removed and how will it be disposed of?
It would be the mobile home. There's 2 campers on the property, and then the solid waste that's you saw
Strewn
around
throughout.
the garage building on the property.
And you have that specified in recommendation then?
Yes, correct. Yep, it was those things. Well, and did I say, I'm sorry, the mobile home itself, of course, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question on that. If the fellow is not able to pay for this, then what happens?
Ultimately,
Goes
it
on
would
the
go
tax
tax
rolls?
forfeiture back onto the tax, yep.
And since he's incarcerated, it may be difficult for him to,
I suppose it depends upon the outcome of all of
Yeah.
those life decisions he's making, yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I asked the question regarding the potential to mitigate the cost of the abatement, because what happens is that we'll spend a great deal of money. The likelihood of it coming off the tax rolls is extremely high. And so then it goes on to, onto the sheriff's sale, or onto our census of properties, ultimately to a sheriff's sale. And if anybody had any interest in buying that lot, some of the neighbors are looking at a very big assessment that would go along with it. And if it never sells, that we end up dropping the cost of it till it does clear, which probably includes eating the cost of the cleanup.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. Is it possible in a case like this, if we get the consent of the owner, I'm concerned about the cost too, and as part of doing business, we have some that fall through this, come into this kind of a situation, where we could have a practice burn on the mobile home if the mobile home is beyond movable and not worth of any value or not salvageable. Is that something we could do with the local fire department in that area? It's a controlled burn. Have we done that in the past?
I'm not aware of that happening. A controlled burn that I'm familiar with would be a stick-built structure, and then certainly there's, the list of items that need to be removed from the structure prior to that. And then there's a set of standards that the fire department works with to truly consider it a training facility or training burn. I think with the amount of metal and other items associated with a mobile home, that it would be difficult to meet the requirements of the fire department to do that.
Yes.
1984, we experienced a mobile home fire, and I had wished that they could just let it continue to burn. It's a lot easier to remove them without the fire damage, and with the fire damage, I can assure you that.
All right, well, we do have any other questions or comments? This is, I believe that we have a go ahead, Mr. Bird.
Just a clarification for a closed meeting, do we have to open the meeting to have them vote on the
We
motion?
close the hearing.
You close the hearing.
Close the whole hearing.
Yeah.
No, it's a decision time.
Yeah. So, any other comments? We have a motion to proceed with the nuisance abatement and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And anything else you have?
I do not have anything further, so
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you
All
for
right.
your time. And we are at a,
Word.
I'll do it from up here, Mr. Chair. This is the award of project number 34-070-008, more probably better referred to as our striping, our HSIP, our safety striping, the grooved in edge line. So it's our recommendation to, and we took bids on this at the May 21st board meeting. It's a 6-inch solid white paint, ground in wet reflective. And it's our recommendation to award to Traffic Marking Services in the amount of $214,068.32, which is 22.7% under our estimate. So what we have to do, I'm just going to explain that just a little bit.
yeah,
Because I think at the time, there was 2 questions when we opened bids. They were extremely low. And then what we have to do is we have to send in a justification report to the state. So what we do which is a standard practice, is we take, our engineer's estimate is based on average bid prices over years, and then we do an inflation cost, and we project that out. Now, when we do this estimate, we do this a few years ahead of when we bid it. And so basically what goes on there is the industry actually is getting competitive, and so that inflation amount isn't keeping up with what it actually is staying flat. And so we feel that is a major part of why bids are just coming in less than what we anticipated and what the state and the feds anticipated. So the other question that did come up, and so we did a little bit of work on this, because sometimes we get federal money for this, we get state money for this, we get LRIP money for this. And so I think Commissioner Emdike asked this question about what our cost is versus what if we just did it on our own. And so we just did some quick math for the sake of the board. And our participation in this 54-mile Edgeline project, $214,000, is $21,400. That's our match. So it's costing us $21,000 to do 54 miles. Okay? if we were to do that with this bids that we did on our latex, that same exact amount would have cost us $33,700. Okay, so there's a $12,000 savings if we had just done it with our own forces versus our match for this 54 miles. Now, that's not the total picture because we do latex every other year. And the grooved end lasts about 6 years. So you could take that, you could multiply that number. So if you took, assuming every other year, our savings, or our cost to do this same thing would be about $101,000 to do these 54 miles over the life of doing it with the federal. Is that confusing? We do with the federal project, which is grooved end, lasts 6 years. It costs us $21,000. If we're gonna come over here and do that latex every other year for 6 years, it costs us $101,000. So that's the value of getting federal money. It's about a 5-to-1 in this case.
Well,
Does that kind of?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think, as I told my girls when they were applying for grants, as they were going to college, I said, if you spend 3 hours and you get one grant for $1,000, I said, you're getting paid pretty good money per hour. And I think your efforts to get these HSIP dollars are a pretty good payback.
Yeah, so for $21,000, we're getting 100. I mean, it's however you want to look at it, but sometimes we don't really maybe always do that math, and so I just wanted to do that math on this one.
no, I certainly appreciate that kind of savings. I had a question when these bids were opened of the disparity between the low bid and the other two, $100,000. And I assume, I know you you looked them over carefully.
Yep.
I just wanted to verify that. I have all the confidence in the world in you. I just wanted to clarify that because there is such a difference that you wonder what this one forgot versus,
I think stripers, I came from an ag community, so we always had the people that did all the wheat harvest in South Dakota. They would start on like the south end of the state and they'd work their way north, and then that's done. And if yours is ready when they go by, then good. If it's not, then okay.
Yeah.
Stripers are the same thing. They move across the state
okay.
with whatever projects they get. And so they'll it looked like in Wilmer, they came Saturday or Sunday and they striped all of Wilmer. They just roll in and stripe and leave. They just roll through because they can do it so quick, so many miles. And I think when you see large variations like this, that just fits their schedule, and it might not fit another schedule. You know what I mean? I think it's just that simple.
Yeah, I knew it, and I'm not. I just wanted to clarify. Right?
Yeah, and I appreciate too, making sure that these are good qualified contractors, but my son-in-law has told me, he said, sometimes when your plate is already pretty full, you just throw one out there, and if you get it, you find a way to do it, but, so sometimes they're busy enough, so they give you a pretty strong bid.
Yeah, because they don't necessarily
That want it.
And traffic marking has done a lot of work for us. We have no issues.
Yeah. No, that's, like I say, I trust your judgment. I just wanted to ask that question for clarification purposes.
One more question. if I
Yes.
may. So Mel, when we're doing paving in a community, we tend to let the townships know too, that somebody's out there striping or doing whatever. Do we do that with striping with the townships? I know not many townships have paved roads, but I saw New London Township's got some that could use some striping.
We have not coordinated striping with the townships, no. We will let them know when we're doing ours, but once again, it's such a quick thing, and I don't know,
They probably haven't discussed it at their meetings.
Plus it's a struggle too, so if we do it, some of those more higher profile people will call about something, and it's like, we don't need all these, because it's a stripe, it's a low cost product, so.
All right. do we need a motion?
We need, my recommendation is to award the contract to Traffic Marketing Services Incorporated.
Is there a motion?
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Almond moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Berg seconds. Any further discussion? I think we pretty well discussed it. All those in favor of awarding that bid, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And we have committee reports. Now, there's one of us who wants to get the heck out of here because he's got alfalfa to deal with. So we'll start with Harlan.
Very quickly, DAC, we postponed the meeting because of some health issues with a family member. So DAC will meet this next week. UCAP meeting, the financing is taken care of. The construction is starting. However, it's 2 months behind because of some delays for financing and the weather. We have asked for permission from Head Start to delay the start of Head Start rather than September, to move it into we were hoping by the end of October, we will see, and we're working through the federal process at that point in time. Several conversations on County Road 8 and multiple conversations on rain roads and ditches. I
Yes,
can leave it at that.
there you go. Commissioner Almond.
Well, we had our intergovernmental meeting with the city, school, and the county. Mr. Clandell and Cork and myself and Mayor School District was there present. We had some very cordial sharing of information on what's going on with our taxing jurisdictions. Our next meeting, we'll be talking about more about our budgets and what's anticipated future growth, where we're going to divide or how we're going to deal with the issue of wants versus needs, and who's going to be next in line to take care of their next improvements. It's an ongoing process. I think these meetings are effective. I think we need to continue with maybe getting a little more detailed into the long-range plan of how we're going to financially take care of the needs of the community. But so far, we're fortunate and very blessed compared to other counties and other cities and other areas of the state. Convention Visitors Bureau, we just met yesterday, Corky and I, up at the Old Crow Golf Club. Had a great BLT sandwich, Mr. Emdick, and good service. And there's a lot of activities going on. You can check Wilmer.com. You can find out what we have going on in the community. And I tell you, when people say, I don't know what to do today, I can't imagine why. The Convention Visitors Bureau and the recreational people in the county here, there's a lot of activities going on for kids and for adults too. So check that calendar, and you can sure keep yourself active. Nighttime or daytime things going on. Other than that, we approved some used car purchases for I serve in the Finance Committee of the Helping Hands Nurse Family Partnership, and we're saving about 30-some% over new vehicles for slightly used cars with 15 to 18,000 miles on for the staff people. So I think we made a good move there. We'll see. But so far, they're all working out fine. The library's doing good. There's some complaints, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, about the funding source, but that's ongoing. Other than that, have a good summer.
So we had an AIS meeting the day after our last meeting. Fairly routine stuff there. We want to review the budget a little bit better at our next meeting. We had, whenever you have the long week in the last week of the month, there's several days that get open. So I ended up with several days. We had a special meeting at Green Lake, or Glacier Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District as we're working with the SCADA project. And there'll probably be another special meeting to talk about our options regarding the budget for the project. Attended the New London City Council meeting regarding a TIF hearing. Last week, as several of you also did, was the MnDOT open house. And yesterday was broadband committee. And so there's some continued consternation over our lack of broadband and how we go about achieving that infrastructure. And I noticed that I sent an article around to some this morning how the federal government has taken a look at some of the maps that are produced. They seem to be, they call an area served if even only one person in that, one household in that area is served. And so that doesn't allow for funding from the federal level. And so we're looking at trying to promote some policy changes both at the state and federal level so that that mapping can be better
More accurate.
reflected. Yep.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask a question, Mr. Emdek, is it also not true that when these various providers are installing their fiber optics alongside of, well, number 8 right now and number 2 and so on, that diminishes this county's chance for any future broadband because now the area is considered to be served and meeting the federal and state standards?
That's true. And usually those providing the maps are the providers themselves.
Oh, so
And so
Fox is watching the
Fox is watching the hen house, exactly. So when they ask, "Oh, is that area served?" then one of the incumbents might say, "Oh yeah, we're serving that area," and when in fact there might be very little service in the area, and largely those that are considered served are underserved, and so being underserved doesn't rise to the level of some of the funding.
Okay.
Okay. The last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of meetings, actually. Some of us overlap. We had the intergovernmental meeting with the city and Wilmer School system and representatives. And we also had the tourism and convention center meeting, as Steve mentioned. I attended the Wilmer Lake Association, Area Lake Association on the 22nd, partly because of it's my district as well as being on the Hot Creek Project Committee and one watershed plan for Hot Creek. Very interesting meeting, some good presentations at that meeting, and I'm seeing some really good leadership on that committee now. And so I'm hoping, we talked briefly about maybe representation on the advisory committee for the one watershed plan too, from their leadership. Also on that same day, there was the Drug Free Coalition committee meeting, and as usual, there's a lot of projects going on there, and they need volunteers to attend a lot of different booths. The Southern Prairie Community Care Committee met on the 24th, reviewed the financials, and actually they're going to have to keep the books open for 2 years for accountability. There will be some money when everything finally gets closed out to the counties, but there's so many other bills and strings attached with that right now. We will not know that exact amount for some time. The Recycling Committee was on the 28th, and that was always an exciting committee to attend. I enjoy that committee very much. There was also a representative from the city of Wilmer there, and we also talked about recycling in the parks. A very productive meeting. Myself and Commissioner Eindek, we attended drug court meetings, and a meeting on the 29th, and there was a graduation, and the graduation was an individual who went through the drug court program and had over 800 days of sobriety. This is some person who had an extensive criminal activity, and his life was not going in the right direction, and he definitely has turned it around. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's got his license, he's got a job, he's paying child support, he's doing a lot of things, and it's a good program. It was very good to see that. I went to MnDOT Open House again, and the Visitors Bureau, I wanted to just add a couple more things that I thought about it. I like to promote something. There's so much going on, as Steve was saying, but I want to really promote Studio Hop, and that's on June 14th and 15th coming up. And Sibley Park is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and it was called to our attention, to Steve and my attention, that the picture of Sibley Park is on the window stickers that you get for your annual membership park sticker. So that is pretty much it.
What's the date on that?
Saturday,
This Saturday?
Yep.
Saturday. All right, thank you. And as most of you know, I had nothing on my schedule since the last meeting. I can't figure out how that happened because it's never happened before.
5,000 miles will.
And so I went on a vacation with my wife out to the southern part of Utah, actually 6, because we went to the north rim of the canyon as well. Wonderful time, and, but I have no committee reports because of that. And I had no committees, and I don't know how that happened either.
I think that's pretty marvelous. It's pretty hard to get away.
I
isn't
can't
it?
imagine.
Yeah.
Because the
Good
rest
for
of my
you.
month is plumb full.
Yeah.
So I guess that was Providence.
What have we got coming up, Mr. Chair, of things that we need to be aware
well,
of tomorrow or Friday, of course?
You got the AM,
First Thursday.
you got
Yep.
Thursday, you got the Prime West meeting in Alexandria. On Friday, there's a lot of things going on. Friday is just a crazy day. We got the AMC district meeting, got the groundbreaking ceremony for the CABS hospital over by the MnDOT property. That starts at 11. And I know you have the annual meeting for Woodland Centers in the afternoon when you get back. And then, of course, the stuff you just talked about this weekend.
The district meeting, did you mention that?
Yep, district meeting.
Yep.
And if you have any updates you want Raleigh to report on, we give.
Yeah, get anything that you think I should mention, accomplishments, problems at the AMC meeting. I'd appreciate a heads up so that I get as much complete information to the rest of the counties.
Roger's going to cut you off, but that's.
That's right. He's leaving on some getaway time.
We have Board of Equalization, but that's after the next meeting.
Right, that is the 24th,
24th, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Yep.
All right. I guess unless anyone else has anything, I declare this meeting adjourned.